You don't need
Okay. Pain, suffering, problems, abuse, and violence have become normal in my life. I've gotten so used to them that now, every time another bad thing happens, it's like I was expecting it. Every time I feel less sad and less upset. I've become so used to the feeling that the thought of happiness seems surreal. It's like being hit in one spot over and over and over again. It eventually becomes numb to the point where you can't feel anything. You put makeup on the bruises to forget about them and cover them up from the outside world so nobody knows. However, you can't leave the makeup on forever. You reach a point where you eventually have to deal with the problems and face reality. Coming into the Fields Academy, this felt like a place where I could safely take off the makeup I've been wearing for a long time and put myself in a vulnerable position where everybody can see the bruises and part of me that nobody has seen before. Although some bruises have subsided and faded away, there are still scars that remain and remind me of the things I've encountered these past 15 years. Before coming on this trip, I would sometimes wish that I hadn't been in an abusive relationship that left me traumatized and hadn't gone through probation, PO officers, and court cases, or that my sister hadn't attempted suicide at just 21 years old when she was just starting life. And I asked God why my little sister had to get diabetes at age 4 as I watched my mom inject insulin into her body every day and knew she was going to have to deal with this for the rest of her life. Or why my dad had abandoned us as I tried calling him several times, but each would lead me to his voicemail, the only way I heard his voice. I remember how much I cried and desperately wanted a life with no more problems. I wanted to be heard, and for the first time in a long time, I had people to listen to my story. Hearing other people share personal stories and having conversations with Laurita and Merritt, two people who I look up to, changed my perspective on life. On July 17 this year, we had a storytelling workshop where my fellow Field Academy classmates and I shared stories on major events that happened in our lives. I remember how powerful it felt, but as the time came to me, I felt the air so thick, which clumped my throat, and time suddenly seemed to slow down. I felt everyone's eyes staring at me, and I hesitated. At first, I couldn't get the words out because even the thought of me telling my story of being in a bad relationship for a year brought back so many memories and pain that had taken me months to forget. It was hard to bring up and talk about that period in my life to a group of people I had been knowing for just 4 weeks. However, I overcame my fear, and yes, I cried, but I felt like I let go of something I had been holding in for a long time. I felt a sense of relief, like weight being lifted off my shoulders. After my story, I remember imagining my life with these events being erased, as if they never happened. I did a lot of reflection and thinking on my life, and for the first time, I accepted my experience. That was a part of me. I took it all in, from the good and the bad, and just let it sink in, and accepted it. And I came to the conclusion that I wouldn't be the same person I am today, and probably wouldn't be here without them. Yes, these things happen, but they just impacted me. They don't define me. Instead of worrying about what I should have done differently, or wishing something hadn't happened, I should focus on what I'm going to do from now. I learned the true power of storytelling and stepping out of my comfort zone. I feel humble. I learned to appreciate the life I have, not complain with what I don't have, appreciate the people I do have, and try to live each day as if it were my last.